So Swiss voters held an election where they were supposed to answer the question of whether should mandatory national military service, which is currently in Switzerland compulsory for men, should it also be extended to women? And they voted no to that question. And I wanted to cover this because no one in the world, no one in the world imagined themselves to be proponents of gender equality like Europeans. And obviously we know that it's all bullshit. None of these people believe in gender equality. The only equality that they believe in is the equality that suits them. It's not true equality. The fact that men are required by law to die in service of protecting women in the likelihood of if there is a war or invasion or any military action that happens. But women are not required by law to die in service of men. That can only be called nothing else other than overt gender discrimination. This is obviously happening right now as we speak in the war in Ukraine, where the Ukrainian government has been putting men in prison who are refusing to fight this war while letting women leave the country as refugees. And very few things in the world upset me like this issue of military conscription of men by force of government while allowing women to serve in the military only if they choose to. This thing for me upsets me more than most things in the world. And the European Union cannot possibly imagine itself to be proponents of gender equality. The United Nations is aware that countries all over Europe, all over the West are discriminating on men on the basis of gender by requiring them to die where they are not requiring women to die. There is no other group in the world that can be so discriminated against with a tacit compliance and approval of some of the largest multilateral organizations. If, for instance, a country, any country in the world, were to say that there is compulsory military service for black people, but there is no compulsory military service for white people, that law would not go on for very long. That country will be accused of genocide. If a country were to say there is a compulsory military service for this ethnic group, but there's no compulsory service, military service for that ethnic group, that other ethnic group can serve only if it chooses to, that will be called genocide. But Western nations who imagine themselves to be proponents of freedom can legislate like require death for men in service of women, while saying that women can only serve and die in the military only if they choose to. I can tell you now that if a person or a group of people are required to die so that another group can live, while the other group is not required to die so that the first group has to live, that is clear evidence that the group that is required to die has less rights than the group that they are dying for. I'll repeat that. If group A is required by law to die in order group B to live, while group B is not required by law to die in order for group A to live, that is clear evidence that Group A has less rights than Group B. There is no other way of going around this. There is no justifying it. There is no beating around the bush about it. And then there's also this other crap now that some people are saying that, yeah, but women are required to raise to raise families. That is their civic duty. And I call bullshit on that. I call bullshit firstly because women have been telling us for the past 60 years that they are not required to bear children for anyone. That they are under no compulsion to bear children for anyone. Number one. And number two, that if they choose to bear children for anyone, they will parent those children as they choose. That no one under the law can compel them to bear children. No one under the law can compel them to give up their careers to raise those children. So I call bullshit on that. And then secondly, they're saying women are doing unpaid labor of domestic work. I call bullshit on that too. The reason being that we have the data that when you collate all the hours that men and women work per week, including the hours of so-called free labor that women give in terms of domestic work, men still work 6 hours more than women per week. On average, men are still working 6 hours more than women. Even when you add to women's working hours the issue of domestic work, cooking, rearing of children, and all of that. So there is no moral or legal, constitutional, human rights justification of compelling men to die so that women can live, while you don't compel women to die so that men can live. Basically what it is a gross violation of men's human rights. This is what it is. It is a gross violation of men's human rights. And I can tell you now, fellas, for me personally, if I am required, because my country, I have citizenship of one country right now, whatever country that might be at a particular time, if I am required to fight in a war where not everyone is required to fight in that war, meaning if I am required to fight but women are not required to fight, I'm not fighting in that war. If the penalty of refusing to fight is being thrown into prison, I will serve my time in prison with pleasure. With pleasure. And I'll consider that I am a political prisoner. I would gladly rot in jail than be required to go to the battle lines and die for people who hate me. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to the battle lines to fight and die for people who hate me, who've been speaking shit about me for the past 60 years, who say they don't need me for anything, just like a fish needs a bicycle, so do women need men. I am not doing any of that crap. I would rather die in prison than be used as a pawn to go fight so that women can live. These women do not deserve my sacrifice. No, they do not. I would never do it. I will not do it. It will not happen. I'm telling you. And I'm so sick and tired of this bullshit, to be honest. I'm so sick and and I'll tell you what, fellas, stop joining these death professions. Stop joining these death professions. Whether it's the police, whether it's the military, whether it's the Marines, whether it's firefighters, or any of these professions where men are dying every day. Stop joining those death professions. Stop doing it. Stop dying for people who don't give a shit about you. Stop doing it. These people don't deserve your sacrifice. I know that some of you will join these death professions because it's the only way that you're going to support your family, maybe because the police maybe pay more, like just above minimum wage, or the military pays more than that and they have good benefits. I understand that. But if you have another way of making your living outside of joining these death professions, fellas, don't do it. The only way society will stop treating men like shit is if men stop collaborating and participating in our own destruction. As long as men continue to participate in a society that hates us, that has been destroying us, that has been besmirching us, insulting us, caricaturing us, all the pejoratives and all the insults, and that men are shit for the past 60 years, as long as you continue to give your sweat and blood to that society, nothing is going to change. I can tell you now that this issue of requiring men to die on a battlefield while women can only die if they choose to is a gross human rights violation. This is not funny. This is not a slight matter. This is not something. This is not a petty issue. Men die in these wars. If you think about, for instance, the Vietnam War in the United States of America, where 59,000 people died, Americans. 59 or 58,000 Americans died in the Vietnam War. Do you know how many men were those? Do you know how many men were those? 55,000 of those deaths were men. Fellas, you need to stop doing this. You need to stop doing it. There is no glory to be had here in dying for people who hate you. Then you're going to come back from war having lost your limbs, having serious mental health issues, and they're going to come and going to be shitting on you, talking shit about you, and then they're going to say to you, but you are in control. You are the ones who are writing laws, all that bullshit. Fellas, just stop doing it. Stop doing it. Anyways, but if you participate in this slaughter of men, you have only yourself to blame. You really have only yourself to blame. Cheers.